In every corner of our planet, buried beneath sand, stone, and time itself, lie discoveries so perplexing they challenge everything we think we know about human history. These are the artifacts that defy logic, the structures that whisper of civilizations more advanced or more enigmatic than our books can explain. From impossibly precise architecture carved in forgotten ages to objects found where they should not exist, each find opens a doorway into a past still shrouded in silence. Tonight, we step into that silence. Join me as we uncover 10 breathtakingly mysterious archaeological discoveries that continue to shock the world and invite you to question the story of our ancient past. High in the hills overlooking the Toluca Valley, where the air grows thin and the wind brushes across ancient volcanic soil, lies the archaeological site of Tecaxic-Calixtlahuaca. It is a landscape of crumbling stone terraces, hidden rooms, and weathered remnants of a once active community that thrived in central Mexico long before European ships appeared on the horizon. Among the pottery shards, ritual offerings, and everyday tools found here, one object stands apart, an artifact so unexpected, so geographically misplaced, that it continues to challenge the boundaries of conventional archaeology. It is a small terracotta head, scarcely larger than a human fist, yet profound enough to ignite decades of debate. The head itself is worn by time, but distinct. Its features are sharply European, or at least they seem to be. A carefully sculpted beard frames the lower face, the eyes are deeply set, and the expression carries the unmistakable impression of a style seen not in pre-Columbian Mesoamerica, but in ancient Mediterranean art. Scholars who first examined it noted an uncanny resemblance to Roman craftsmanship, the kind associated with the Mediterranean world nearly 2,000 years ago. And yet, this figure was unearthed beneath a sealed pre-Hispanic floor, in a burial context dating to around the 9th or 10th century. Long before Norse explorers were believed to have set foot on North America, let alone Romans. Its discovery in 1933 puzzled the archaeologist José García Payón, who documented the context with care. He found the head alongside local artifacts suggesting a period well before European contact. For decades, the find remained little more than a footnote, an archaeological curiosity mentioned occasionally but rarely examined. It wasn't until the late 20th century that the head re-entered public conversation. When it did, it stirred the waters of historical certainty. Laboratory analysis in the early 2000s seemed to offer a surprising twist. Thermoluminescence testing, used to estimate the last time the clay was fired, suggested a date between the 9th century BCE and the 13th century CE. The wide range left plenty of room for interpretation, yet the idea that this could be a genuinely ancient Mediterranean object, somehow transported across the ocean centuries before Columbus, raised more questions than answers. How could such an artifact reach central Mexico? Through whom? And why? Mainstream archaeology offers explanations that, while less dramatic, remain plausible. Some scholars suggest that the head may have been a misplaced object introduced into the site in modern times, perhaps by a collector or an unrecorded visitor long after the original excavation. Others argue that the layering of the site may not have been as sealed as originally described, meaning the head could have slipped into older strata during construction, erosion, or animal activity. These ideas fit comfortably within known historical frameworks and require no revision of transoceanic contact timelines. But even these explanations come with their own uncertainties. No documented account confirms a modern intrusion, and the excavation records, though not as detailed as modern standards would demand, show no obvious irregularities. The artifact's burial context, while not immune to disruption, appears consistent with the site's pre-Hispanic occupation, and so the mystery persists. suspended between caution and curiosity. Beyond mainstream interpretations, more speculative theories naturally followed. Some researchers proposed the possibility of long-distance trade networks far broader than generally accepted, networks that might have stretched across continents and oceans through routes now lost to time. Others entertained the notion that ancient sailors, perhaps Mediterranean or Near Eastern, could have crossed the Atlantic by chance or design. After all, history holds records of accidental voyages, storms that cast ships adrift, and unexpected landfalls. Could such an event have delivered a small terracotta head into the hands of Mesoamerican inhabitants? A fringe hypothesis even imagines the head as evidence of direct Roman contact with the Americas, a notion that carries enormous implications. None verified, but none entirely impossible to contemplate. If a single object with Roman traits were ever proven to predate known transoceanic journeys, the foundations of ancient global history would tremble. And yet, this single head, isolated and without corroborating evidence, remains too ambiguous to support such a sweeping conclusion. Still, the striking European features refuse to be ignored. The shaped beard, the facial proportions, and the sculpting technique echo artifacts known from Roman provinces. But stylistic similarities alone cannot confirm origin. Convergent artistic expression has emerged independently in many cultures throughout time. Could this be a coincidence? A Mesoamerican artisan crafting an unfamiliar, perhaps symbolic face? Or is the familiarity we perceive an illusion, shaped by our expectations and collective imagination? The site itself offers no easy answers. Tecaxic-Calixtlahuaca, with its terraces and ceremonial spaces, was part of a complex network of communities that interacted, traded, and evolved over centuries. It was not an isolated village, but a node in a dynamic cultural landscape. If foreign objects ever arrived here, through trade, travel, or chance, perhaps the people incorporated them into their rituals or burials without fully knowing the object's origin or significance. And so, the Tecaxic-Calixtlahuaca Head stands at a crossroads of interpretation. It is an enigma that resists simple classification. A fragment of clay capable of stirring both careful scholarship and bold speculation. Its presence invites us to reconsider the boundaries of the ancient world, not by forcing conclusions, but by reminding us how incomplete our understanding remains. Was this head a misplaced artifact, accidentally introduced into the site? A traveler's keepsake that crossed oceans long before history recorded such voyages? Or simply a coincidence of style made by hands far closer to home? The truth, for now, lies somewhere between what we know and what we have yet to uncover. And as we leave behind one mystery, another rises from the jungles of a world far from ancient Sumer, yet equally steeped in unanswered questions. Across the ocean, in the humid lowlands of southern Mexico, a civilization emerges from the mist of deep time, the Olmec. Often called the mother culture of Mesoamerica, their influence spans centuries, but their origins, motives, and beliefs remain veiled. And nowhere is that enigma more vividly carved than in the massive, enigmatic monuments known today as the Olmec Altars. Scattered across sites such as La Venta, San Lorenzo, and Laguna de los Cerros, these colossal stone structures rise from the earth like remnants of forgotten rites. At first glance, they resemble thrones, huge rectangular blocks of basalt, often weighing many tons, hewn with a level of skill that seems almost at odds with their age. Their surfaces bear deep carvings, figures emerging or perhaps imprisoned within cave-like niches, rulers wrapped in elaborate regalia, scenes that hint at cosmology, lineage, and power. And surrounding them, serpents, jaguars, and swirling motifs that speak in a symbolic language yet to be fully decoded. The most famous among them, Altar 4 at La Venta depicts a figure seated within a recessed chamber carved into the stone. He grips a rope that winds outward, as if tethering him to a world beyond the stone, or to someone, or something, outside the frame. Another, Altar 5, shows a central figure holding an infant with distinctly jaguar-like features. Scholars have long debated the meaning behind these scenes. Are they myths, genealogies, ritual performances, or something deeper, something bridging the human world and the supernatural? To the Olmec, caves held immense symbolic power, gateways between realms, entrances to the underworld, thresholds where gods, ancestors, and living rulers might meet. Many researchers interpret the altars as stone representations of these sacred portals, each niche a symbolic mouth of the earth. But the figures within these niches complicate the story. Some wear headdresses resembling helmets, others clutch cords or staffs, some appear stoic, while others look strained or sorrowful. Are they emerging from these portals, or being drawn back into them? Mainstream archaeology offers several interpretations. One suggests these altars functioned as literal thrones used by Olmec rulers during ceremonial events, simultaneously emphasizing their authority and their connection to divine forces. The combination of throne-like structure and mythic imagery may have served to reinforce the idea of leadership sanctioned by gods, a concept seen throughout early civilizations. Another view interprets the altars as commemorative objects, marking important events, dynastic milestones, or ritual narratives. Their placement within ceremonial centers supports this, suggesting they were focal points of public gatherings. Yet, despite these reasonable explanations, many features resist easy categorization. The rope motifs that appear on some altars, for example, are not fully understood. Do they symbolize lineage, control over spiritual forces, communication between realms? One figure seems to pull the rope, another appears bound by it. The relationship remains unclear, and then there is the recurring presence of the so-called were-jaguar, a composite being with both human and jaguar traits. Its appearance in infant form on Altar 5 adds another layer of mystery. Was this a mythical progenitor, a ritual symbol, or a representation of shamanic transformation? These unresolved elements have opened the door to more speculative theories, ideas that wander beyond the boundaries of conventional scholarship. Some researchers propose that the Olmec altars depict shamanic journeys, with the figures inside the niches representing individuals entering altered states or spiritual transitions. Others imagine the altars as dramatizations of origin myths, perhaps retelling how ancestors emerged from the underworld to establish early Olmec society. Still others wonder whether the altars might encode astronomical knowledge or cosmological cycles, hidden in the iconography carved onto their basalt surfaces. More fringe perspectives go further, suggesting connections to lost civilizations or forgotten migrations. The helmet-like headgear depicted on some figures has prompted comparisons, often speculative, to cultures far beyond Mesoamerica. Some theorists question whether the altars hint at contact with distant peoples, or whether the symbolism reflects ideas brought from an unknown origin. While no physical evidence supports such conclusions, the visual parallels occasionally spark curiosity. Could these be coincidences of style, independent inventions of meaning, or traces of a broader, ancient story we have yet to piece together? Even the basalt itself carries questions. The stone used for many of these altars was transported from distant volcanic regions, often over dozens of kilometers. Moving such massive blocks through swampy lowland terrain would have required extraordinary effort and coordination. How exactly the Olmec accomplished this remains debated. Did they use wooden rollers, rafts along seasonal rivers? Or did they possess techniques now lost to time? The logistics alone speak to a society with complex organization and deep reverence for the monuments they created. When viewed up close, the altars evoke a feeling difficult to articulate, a blend of grandeur, solemnity, and an uncanny sense of narrative paused mid-scene. The carved figures seem frozen in the midst of a story whose beginning and end are unknown. Their faces, though stylized, carry emotion. Their gestures convey intention. And the surrounding motifs, snakes, flames, swirling patterns, suggest layers of meaning stacked one upon another, like chapters missing from an ancient book. What stands out is the deliberate ambiguity. These monuments are too purposeful to be mere decoration, too symbolic to be entirely literal, and too enigmatic to yield their meaning without resistance. They occupy a space between art and ritual, between myth and history. Each altar is a puzzle with pieces scattered across time, some preserved, many lost. The Olmec civilization eventually faded, its cities abandoned, its monuments left to be reclaimed by the jungle. Later cultures, including the Maya and the Zapotec, would inherit and transform elements of Olmec thought. But the altars remain uniquely Olmec, silent guardians of a worldview we can glimpse but not fully grasp. And so, as we stand before these massive stone blocks, we are left to wonder, what stories did they once tell? What ceremonies unfolded around them? Were they portals, thrones, warnings, or celebrations? Or perhaps all of these at once? The answers may lie buried beneath layers of soil, hidden within surviving carvings, or waiting in some yet unexcavated site still sleeping beneath the jungle canopy. For now, the Olmec altars remain exactly what they have always been, monuments to a mystery that continues to deepen the more closely we look. And as we move from the stone monuments of the Olmec, silent, immovable, and carved with enigmas, we step forward in time to a civilization whose mysteries were recorded not in basalt, but in ink and fiber. Deeper within the cultural tapestry of ancient Mesoamerica, another story waits to be told, one written with astonishing precision, and yet still layered with unanswered questions. Here, among the remnants of temples and jungle-covered cities, we find the fragile echoes of Maya knowledge, the Mayan astronomical codices. Few artifacts from the ancient world feel as delicate, as improbable, or as fiercely protected by time as these manuscripts. Made from the bark of fig trees, carefully coated with lime plaster and folded accordion style, the codices seem almost weightless, yet they carry within them the weight of a civilization's intellect. Their pages are covered with hieroglyphs, numbers, and vivid illustrations, gods descending from the sky, celestial bodies moving across patterned tables, rituals aligned with cosmic cycles. At first glance, they appear artistic, but at their core, they are instruments of calculation, maps of time, astronomy, and prophecy. Only 3 undisputed Maya codices survive today: the Dresden Codex, the Madrid Codex, and the Paris Codex. A 4th, the Grolier Codex, now often called the Maya Codex of Mexico, remains a subject of scholarly debate, with tests suggesting authenticity, while some experts still question its stylistic qualities. The survival of so few manuscripts is itself a mystery, the result of humidity, warfare, and perhaps most devastating of all, the book burnings ordered by Spanish friars in the 16th century. What was lost may have been vast. What remains is just enough to remind us of how advanced and how enigmatic Maya science truly was. The Dresden Codex, the oldest surviving book in the Americas, offers some of the most remarkable insights. Its pages include complex tables predicting lunar and solar eclipses with astonishing accuracy, calculations that appear to follow a pattern stretching thousands of years before the Codex was even written. Elsewhere, The Venus table tracks the movements of Venus across the sky with such precision that modern astronomers still marvel at the methods the Maya must have used. How did a civilization without metal tools or telescopes manage to achieve a level of astronomical understanding rivaling that of ancient Babylon or Greece? Mainstream archaeology suggests a combination of long-term observation, mathematical ingenuity, and careful record-keeping. Maya astronomers tracked celestial events for generations, using temple-top observatories to map the movements of the heavens. Over centuries, their observations accumulated into extraordinarily refined cycles. The codices may simply be the end product of this deep observational tradition. But even within that explanation, questions linger. Why Venus? Why such emphasis on eclipses? Why encode this knowledge in a way that blends scientific calculation with gods, omens, and ritual imagery? And how much of their astronomy was empirical science, and how much was something else entirely, something tied to a worldview in which humans, nature, and the cosmos were inseparable? Some scholars propose that the codices served multiple purposes: scientific tools, ceremonial guides, and political instruments. Rulers relied on astronomers to time wars, coronations, and sacrifices with cosmic cycles. Priests used these books to interpret divine will, reading the sky as a living text. In this sense, the codices may not separate science from spirituality, but weave them together, each reinforcing the other. Still, not everything within these manuscripts fits neatly into the framework of known Maya practices. Certain glyphs refer to events that appear cyclical yet unpredictable, such as catastrophic floods or cosmic disruptions. Others depict deities performing actions that seem symbolic, but could also encode astronomical or mathematical information. Some researchers argue that the codices contain layers of meaning yet to be uncovered, perhaps referencing lost myths, deeper systems of measurement, or even historical events not recorded elsewhere. More speculative theories suggest that the codices hint at knowledge far older than the Maya themselves. Proponents point to similarities between Maya astronomical cycles and patterns known to ancient cultures across the world, asking whether these connections arose independently or through forgotten pathways of cultural exchange. Others focus on the precision of eclipse tables, noting that some calculations appear to predate the Maya civilization by centuries or even millennia. Could the codices reflect older inherited knowledge, remnants of a scientific tradition passed down through generations long before the rise of Maya city-states? Even more fringe interpretations venture into controversial territory, claiming that the codices record interactions with forces or events beyond conventional understanding. These theories sometimes imagine catastrophic celestial alignments, civilizations predating known history, or encounters with beings encoded through symbolic language. While such views lack empirical support, their persistence reflects the codices' ability to evoke wonder. Why do the illustrations blend human and divine figures with such seamless clarity? Why do some pages appear to depict celestial events through mythic imagery that mirrors phenomena modern astronomers can identify? Coincidence, or intentional parallel? The truth likely lies somewhere between the practical and the mystical. The Maya saw no divide between science and the sacred. To them, tracking Venus was not merely astronomical. It was theological, political, and existential. Eclipses were not just shadows cast upon the earth. They were cosmic events bearing meaning, capable of shaping the course of kingdoms. The codices, then, are windows into a worldview in which the universe is not distant and mechanical, but alive, woven into the fate of every community and every life. And yet, for all we have learned, much remains out of reach. Entire sections of the surviving books are damaged or missing. The original collection of Maya manuscripts, likely numbering in the hundreds, perhaps thousands, is lost forever. The few codices we possess are tantalizing fragments of a much larger puzzle, so we are left to wonder, what knowledge did the missing pages contain? What cycles, predictions, or histories slipped through the cracks of time? Are the codices simply records of past observations, or keys to patterns still unfolding today? And what might still lie buried in a cave, sealed within a tomb, or hidden beneath the jungle canopy, waiting for the moment when light meets ink once again? For now, the Mayan astronomical codices remind us of a truth shared by all ancient mysteries, that even when knowledge survives, understanding does not always follow. The cosmos the Maya observed remains the same, but the lens through which they saw it is still only partly revealed. And from the fragile pages of the Mayan codices, inks and symbols tracing the movements of stars, we travel now to a very different kind of mystery, one not written on bark or paper, but carved into stone. Dusty, weighty, and scattered across the desert plains of southern Peru, these objects sit in stark contrast to the precision of Maya astronomy. And yet, in their own strange way, they provoke a similar question. What knowledge did the ancient world possess? And what knowledge has been lost? Here, just beyond the quiet town of Ica, begins the story of the Ica Stones. The landscape itself feels otherworldly. The wind moves across stretches of barren earth, carrying fine sand through narrow valleys carved by time. The horizon trembles in the heat, and beneath the surface lies a history of ancient cultures. Nazca, Paracas, and others who left behind lines, textiles, and geoglyphs that still puzzle researchers today. But the Ica stones are unlike any of these. They do not sit in temples or burial chambers. They are not part of a single ruin, nor tied to one archaeological site. Instead, they surface sporadically, in dry riverbeds, exposed slopes, or the hands of local collectors. At first glance, the stones appear simple, smooth and dark, shaped by volcanic processes, their surfaces etched with images in pale grooves. But look closer, and a startling range of subjects emerges. Some depict animals familiar to the region: fish, birds, monkeys. Others show scenes of daily life: hunting, gathering, rituals. Yet many contain images that defy all easy explanation. Humans interacting with creatures resembling dinosaurs. Complex surgeries or anatomical knowledge far beyond what ancient cultures of the region are known to have practiced. Celestial charts, maps, and scenes that seem to blend myth, history, and speculation into one perplexing narrative. The collection gained global attention in the 1960s, largely through the efforts of Dr. Javier Cabrera Darquea, a Peruvian physician who amassed thousands of the stones. He believed they represented a lost chapter of human history, a civilization predating all known cultures, capable of advanced science and intimate knowledge of life long extinct. His home became a museum of sorts, filled from floor to ceiling with these carved stones, each more bewildering than the last. Archaeologists, however, approached the phenomenon with caution. The absence of clear excavation records, the variety of artistic styles, and the lack of archaeological layers directly linking the stones to a specific ancient culture raised immediate questions. Were the stones truly ancient artifacts? Were they created in different periods? Or were they, as some suspected, modern creations made for sale to tourists and collectors? Local farmers eventually admitted to carving some of the stones themselves, using metal tools and simple techniques to earn additional income. Their confessions cast a long shadow over the entire collection. Many scholars concluded that the stones were modern fabrications. Yet this explanation, while addressing part of the mystery, does not fully resolve it. For among the thousands of Ica stones, some show signs of age that are difficult to replicate. Weathering patterns, surface patina, and mineral deposits suggest that at least a portion may indeed be old, perhaps centuries or even millennia old. But age alone does not guarantee authenticity of content. Older stones may have been recarved, or newer stones may have been artificially aged. Still, a small number of artifacts leave researchers uncertain, lingering in a gray zone where neither authenticity nor fabrication can be definitively proven. And then there is the matter of the imagery itself. Why dinosaurs? Why medical procedures involving transplanted organs? Why celestial diagrams that resemble star charts from eras far removed from Andean history? Are these purely the invention of modern artisans, borrowing imagery from textbooks, films, and popular culture? Or could they reflect a different kind of cultural expression, symbolic rather than literal? Could the figures represent mythic beasts, spiritual concepts, or allegorical scenes later misinterpreted through modern eyes? Mainstream archaeology leans toward the simplest explanation, a mixture of genuine old stones repurposed for carving, combined with entirely modern creations produced to meet the demand for mysterious artifacts. The strange imagery, according to this view, may reflect imagination rather than ancient knowledge. Yet, even this interpretation leaves space for intrigue. Why were certain motifs chosen? Why do some stones show detailed anatomical features that local carvers claim they did not fully understand? And why do a handful of stones appear stylistically consistent with pre-Columbian art, while others look undeniably modern? Speculative theories propose alternatives. Some suggest that the stones encode lost mythologies or oral traditions, stories involving giant creatures or cosmic cycles that may have symbolic significance rather than historical accuracy. Others argue that the stones may represent a kind of teaching art, where fantastical imagery was used to convey moral lessons or cosmological principles. A few researchers entertain the possibility that some of the stones could preserve fragments of knowledge passed down through generations, altered and reinterpreted over time. More fringe ideas claim that the stones are evidence of lost civilizations, ancient travelers, or even encounters with beings of unknown origin. While such theories lack scientific evidence, the persistence of the mystery reflects the unease these artifacts inspire. Why do they feel both ancient and impossible? Why does the imagery evoke questions rather than answers? The Ica Stones occupy a peculiar place in the world of ancient mysteries, caught between genuine cultural artifact, modern invention, and interpretive puzzle. They resist classification, drifting from folklore to archaeology to speculation with unsettling ease. They ask us to consider not just what ancient people knew, but what they dreamed, imagined, or feared. And so, as we turn each stone over in our hands, feeling the grooves beneath our fingertips, one question lingers. Are we looking at the remnants of an unknown past, or the reflections of modern imagination etched into ancient materials? The desert, silent and vast, offers no answers. Somewhere beneath its shifting sands, the truth may still lie hidden, waiting for the moment when sunlight meets stone and the mystery is revealed once more. From the desert sands of Peru, where carved stones whisper of possible lost knowledge, we travel eastward to another landscape of enigma, lush, rolling plains of the Sichuan Basin in southwestern China. Here, beneath layers of soil and centuries of silence, lies a site that has forever challenged our understanding of early Chinese civilization. The discovery of Sanxingdui in the late 20th century would stun archaeologists, not simply for its antiquity, but for the otherworldly artifacts it revealed, most notably the masks that have come to define its mystery. Imagine stepping into a vast pit, the earth freshly unearthed, and being confronted with towering bronze masks, some larger than life itself. Their eyes bulge in startling exaggeration, wide and round, staring outward as if seeing into realms beyond human comprehension. Noses rise sharply, ears flare, and mouths sometimes open in expressions both haunting and inscrutable. Many masks are gilded or coated with traces of precious metals, their surfaces carefully patinated over millennia, giving them an eerie glow in the flickering light of excavation lamps. These are not mere portraits. They are statements, dramatic, stylized, and profoundly enigmatic. The Sanxingdui masks, along with accompanying artifacts of jade, gold, ivory, and bronze, date roughly to the 12th to 11th centuries BCE, contemporary with the Shang dynasty. Yet, stylistically, they are unlike anything found in other regions of ancient China. Their abstract exaggeration, the surreal proportions of their features, and the deliberate distortion of human form suggest a symbolic language or ritual practice now lost to time. Who were the people who created them, and what world did these masks represent? Mainstream archaeology connects the Sanxingdui culture to the ancient Shu civilization, long documented in Chinese historical texts, though the records are sparse. Scholars suggest the masks may have played a role in religious or ceremonial contexts, possibly representing ancestors, deities, or mythical beings. Their size and craftsmanship indicate not only technical skill, but also a society capable of complex organization, labor management, and ritual specialization. In a culture that revered bronze, these masks stand as monumental statements of power, identity, and belief. Yet the masks also defy easy interpretation. Why the oversized eyes? Some researchers propose that the bulging eyes symbolize heightened perception, spiritual vision, or the ability to see beyond the mortal realm. Others argue they may have served as protective symbols, warding off malevolent forces during sacred ceremonies. The scale of some masks, some over a meter across, is unprecedented, raising practical questions about their construction, transport, and use. Were they mounted on altars, worn in ritual, or displayed as permanent markers of status and power? Even more perplexing are the materials and techniques involved. Bronze casting at this scale was not unknown in the Shang period, but the forms and proportions of Sanxingdui masks diverge sharply from contemporary practices elsewhere in China. Did the Shu culture develop independently, or were these forms influenced by distant traditions, now forgotten? And why does this culture, with its remarkable artistry and metallurgical sophistication, suddenly vanish from the historical record, leaving only pits filled with fragmented treasures? Speculative interpretations often emerge to fill these gaps. Some suggest that the masks reflect contact with unknown civilizations, or at least the transmission of ideas through trade and migration. Others propose shamanic or visionary practices encoded in bronze, a deliberate attempt to capture spiritual experience in permanent form. The mask's exaggerated features could represent altered states of consciousness, otherworldly beings, or symbolic expressions of cosmology. Each approach attempts to decode what might have been a language of myth, ritual, and identity now erased by time. Adding to the mystery is the manner of the mask's deposition. Excavations reveal that many were intentionally broken or ritually buried in massive pits, sometimes with other objects that have no immediate functional connection: bronze trees, large statues, and jade ornaments. This suggests ceremonial destruction, a practice that appears deliberate and purposeful. But what motivated such acts? Were they offerings to the gods, expressions of political upheaval, or part of a ritual closure marking the end of an era? The absence of written records leaves us only with fragments of possibility. Even the aesthetic choices provoke questions. Some masks feature human-like faces, while others blur boundaries between human and divine with animalistic features, horns, or exaggerated geometries. Could these indicate different classes of deities or spirits? Or do they represent individual archetypes of power, myth, or fear? In the absence of a Rosetta Stone of Shu iconography, every interpretation remains tentative, each suggestion a bridge between known history and human imagination. The Sanxingdui masks, in their silent grandeur, compel reflection on the nature of cultural memory. They remind us that civilizations can flourish, innovate, and vanish without leaving a continuous thread in the historical record. They challenge assumptions about the uniformity of ancient Chinese development and hint at lost philosophies, religious practices, or social structures that shaped life along the Sichuan plains thousands of years ago. Each mask is a fragment of a puzzle whose edges have been scattered across time. As we gaze upon these bronze faces, a question persists. What stories did they once tell? Were they faces of rulers, intermediaries, gods, or spirits? What rituals were enacted before them? And what beliefs did their creators hold about life, death, and the cosmos? The questions multiply with every excavation, each layer of soil revealing more artifacts, more mysteries, and more evidence of a sophisticated, unseen world. And so the Sanxingdui masks remain as they were first discovered, imposing, mysterious, and unresolved. They are reminders that the past is not always linear, that knowledge can emerge, flourish, and disappear. They are monuments to human creativity, spirituality, and enigma. And as we step back, leaving the pits behind, we are confronted with a final thought. How much of human history, ingenuity, and belief lies hidden beneath layers of earth, awaiting discovery, interpretation, and perhaps awe? The masks stare silently, challenging us to see beyond our assumptions, to wonder at the worlds that once were, and to imagine what still may be waiting to emerge. From the sculpted bronze faces of Sanxingdui, staring across millennia with their haunting, otherworldly expressions, we now turn to a mystery of ink and parchment, a puzzle that has confounded scholars, cryptographers, and linguists for centuries. Unlike the monumental artifacts of distant civilizations, this enigma rests quietly in the European tradition. Tucked between covers and folded pages, its secrets invisible to the casual eye. This is the story of the Voynich Manuscript. Imagine holding the manuscript for the first time. Its pages, slightly yellowed and fragile, exude the weight of centuries. Bound in leather, each folio contains text written in a flowing, elegant script unlike any known alphabet. The letters curve, intertwine, and repeat in patterns that suggest a sophisticated system, but one that defies decryption. Between these lines of mysterious writing are intricate illustrations, bizarre plants with no botanical counterpart, astrological diagrams with unfamiliar constellations, and human figures engaged in enigmatic rituals. The imagery is vivid, detailed, and yet utterly perplexing, as if it were a record of a parallel reality, or a language lost before history could preserve it. The manuscript first entered recorded history in the early 17th century, though radiocarbon dating places its creation in the early 15th century. Its provenance is uncertain. Scholars trace it through a chain of obscure owners, eventually reaching the collection of Wilfrid Voynich, a rare book dealer whose name would become inseparable from the work itself. Since then, the Voynich Manuscript has tantalized everyone from historians and linguists to code breakers and mathematicians, yet no one has definitively deciphered its text. What makes the manuscript particularly intriguing is the consistency of its script. Unlike simple ciphers or hoaxes, the Voynich text exhibits statistical patterns characteristic of a real language, recurring word forms, structured grammar-like rules, and predictable letter distributions. Computer analyses confirm that it is unlikely to be meaningless gibberish. Yet, despite centuries of study and the application of modern cryptographic techniques, the manuscript remains unreadable. Its language, its alphabet, and its intended meaning elude even the most sophisticated analytical tools. Mainstream scholars offer several plausible explanations. Some suggest that the manuscript may encode a lost natural language or a complex shorthand developed for personal or secret use. Others posit that it is a compendium of herbal, medicinal, or astronomical knowledge, organized in a manner familiar to its original creator but obscure to later observers. The illustrations, they argue, may support practical applications. Drawings of plants, astrological charts, and diagrams of human anatomy that correspond to contemporary scientific or medical practices, albeit stylized in a unique and unfamiliar way. Yet, even within these interpretations, puzzling questions remain. Why do so many of the plants depicted appear imaginary, or hybrids of known species? Why are the astrological diagrams not easily mapped onto any known celestial system? And why does the manuscript include depictions of naked human figures interacting with strange vessels and waterways, arranged in ways that suggest ritual or symbolic meaning rather than practical instruction? The evidence is tantalizingly concrete, yet frustratingly ambiguous. Speculative theories abound. Some propose that the manuscript contains esoteric knowledge, perhaps preserved by secret societies or alchemists, encoded in a private or invented script to shield its contents from prying eyes. Others suggest more fantastical ideas, that it is a record of extraterrestrial knowledge, or a glimpse into a parallel cognitive framework, documenting ways of seeing and knowing entirely alien to modern human thought. While such theories lack direct proof, they persist because the manuscript resists interpretation, defying the methods of scholars across disciplines and centuries. Even the possibility of forgery or deliberate hoax cannot be entirely dismissed. Yet radiocarbon dating of the parchment, the natural inks, and the consistency of the script challenge simple explanations. A clever 15th century forgery is plausible, but could it account for the depth of pattern, the linguistic complexity, and the coherence of the manuscript's internal structures? Or is it more likely that we are confronting a deliberate creation whose purpose, practical, spiritual, or otherwise, has simply been lost to history? The Voynich Manuscript is also a meditation on human curiosity and the limits of understanding. Its very resistance to interpretation forces us to confront the gap between evidence and meaning, the tension between what we can observe and what we can comprehend. Each page turned offers more questions than answers, more wonder than certainty. It is a manuscript that invites meticulous scrutiny, patient contemplation, and a willingness to dwell in ambiguity. Holding the Voynich Manuscript, one cannot help but feel a sense of connection across time. The hands that drew its plants, traced its diagrams, and wrote its flowing script were human hands, guided by knowledge, belief, or imagination we cannot fully access. And yet, despite centuries of effort, the message, if there is a single one, remains locked within the curves and lines, waiting for discovery, interpretation, or perhaps understanding beyond our current methods. And so, as we examine the manuscript, we are left with an enduring question. Was this a book of hidden wisdom, a personal journal encoded in a private script, or a creation meant to confound and inspire across generations? Could the Voynich Manuscript contain knowledge lost to time, or is its true value found simply in its ability to ignite curiosity, contemplation, and wonder? The answers lie buried in its parchment, in the loops of its letters, in the strange plants and figures that populate its pages. And as the manuscript rests quietly, centuries old and undiminished by time, it reminds us that some mysteries endure not because they are unsolvable, but because they exist on the edge of our understanding, inviting us, patiently, to continue looking, questioning, and imagining what might still be hidden. From the enigmatic script of the Voynich Manuscript, where ink and parchment preserve secrets that have eluded centuries of study, we now turn to a different kind of enigma, a sentinel of wood, standing in silence for millennia. Far to the north, beneath the boggy soils of the Ural Mountains in Russia, lies one of the oldest known wooden sculptures ever discovered, the Shigir Idol. Its presence is a profound reminder that the past can speak to us in ways that transcend language, geography, and even material decay. Discovered in 1890, buried within layers of peat that preserved it with astonishing clarity, the Shigir Idol stands over 5 meters tall in its reconstructed form, composed of larch wood carved into a series of geometric patterns, anthropomorphic faces, and enigmatic symbols. Its surface is marked by deep grooves, zigzags, and lines whose meaning has long eluded archaeologists. The faces carved along its length, some staring outward with hollow eyes, others rendered as abstract expressions, seem to observe both the living and the dead. Time has worn the wood, but the sculpture's presence is as imposing today as it would have been thousands of years ago. Radiocarbon dating reveals an extraordinary antiquity. Initial estimates placed the idol at roughly 9,500 years old, making it one of the oldest known monumental wooden sculptures in the world. Its age predates the construction of Stonehenge, the pyramids of Egypt, and even the earliest known European civilizations. The discovery challenges assumptions about the cognitive and artistic capabilities of hunter-gatherer societies at the dawn of the Holocene. How could a culture so distant from cities, metallurgy, or writing produce a symbolically sophisticated artifact of such scale? Mainstream archaeology interprets the Shigir Idol as a spiritual or ritual object, a representation of beliefs, cosmology, or social hierarchy among early post-glacial communities. The anthropomorphic faces may embody ancestors, spirits, or deities, while the geometric patterns could encode information, perhaps about seasonal cycles, territorial boundaries, or mythological narratives. Its deposition in a peat bog suggests deliberate placement, perhaps as an offering, a monument, or a marker of sacred space. In this sense, the idol is a window into a world that left no written record, relying instead on visual language and symbolic expression. Yet, as with many ancient artifacts, the Shigir Idol refuses to yield all its secrets. The precise meaning of its markings remains unknown. Some researchers propose that the grooves and zigzags correspond to a proto-writing system or a symbolic code, an early attempt to record knowledge or communicate across generations. Others suggest that the figures reflect shamanic beliefs, representing transformations between human and spiritual forms. The multiplicity of faces along its height could indicate lineage, a sequence of stories, or a cosmological hierarchy. Yet there is no definitive key to interpretation. Further intrigue comes from the idol's construction and preservation. Larch wood is naturally durable, but few wooden sculptures survive for millennia. Its remarkable preservation owes itself to the peat bog, whose acidic, oxygen-poor environment slows decay. Yet even considering this natural protection, the craftsmanship required to shape a tree of such size with stone or bone tools is extraordinary. Each cut, each groove, each curve reflects not only technical skill, but deliberate design and symbolic intent. Who carved it? How did they envision its purpose? And why choose a material so vulnerable, yet so profoundly alive in its tactile and visual presence? Speculative theories have emerged to address the Shigir Idol's most confounding aspects. Some suggest that it served as a repository of knowledge, a memory board encoding myths, genealogies, or cosmological maps. Others imagine it as a ceremonial axis, a spiritual pillar connecting the physical and the supernatural. The elongated, almost ladder-like arrangement of faces has led to comparisons with concepts of ascent, transformation, or journeying between worlds. In this light, The idol could be seen as a bridge between human perception and the unseen forces that shaped early hunter-gatherer life. More fringe interpretations venture further into the unknown, positing connections between the Shigir Idol and other megalithic traditions, or suggesting that it represents a symbolic language with cosmological, mathematical, or even extraterrestrial significance. While these ideas remain speculative, they underscore the profound sense of mystery the idol inspires. Unlike stone monuments, whose form often communicates durability and permanence, the Shigir idol's wooden body conveys fragility, life, and impermanence, qualities that heighten its enigmatic presence. Even in modern scholarship, questions abound. Why does the idol feature repeated motifs? Are the geometric patterns merely decorative, or do they encode a systematic logic? Do the multiple faces represent stages of life, elements of the natural world, or entirely symbolic entities beyond our comprehension? The fact that such a sophisticated work emerges from a culture lacking metallurgy or formal writing challenges conventional narratives of societal development. It asks us to reconsider what we understand about the complexity and symbolic sophistication of early humans. The Shigir idol is, ultimately, both tangible and intangible. It is a physical object we can see, measure, and analyze. Yet the meaning it held for its creators, what it communicated, why it was made, and what stories it carried, remains just beyond our grasp. Like other ancient mysteries we have explored, it occupies the liminal space between knowledge and wonder, evidence and imagination, fact and speculation. It reminds us that human history is not a linear march of progress, but a mosaic of innovations, beliefs, and expressions, some lost and some preserved only in fragments. And so, as we study the Shigir idol, one question persists. What world did it inhabit? What thoughts, beliefs, or fears guided the hands that carved its faces, etched its patterns, and set it into the peat so long ago? Was it a monument to the spiritual, a record of knowledge, or something else entirely? Perhaps a combination of all these things? The answers remain buried in the past, layered in peat, time, and mystery, waiting for the day when insight, intuition, or discovery might reveal what was once held in the mind and hands of its creators. The idol stands silent, centuries old yet vividly present, inviting us to wonder, to reflect, and to imagine the lost worlds that shaped its creation. And as its weathered face stares back at us through the ages, it reminds us of the enduring power of mystery, the way it draws us closer, not to certainty but to awe. From the ancient forests of the Ural Mountains, where the Shigir idol has silently recorded human imagination for nearly 10 millennia, we now turn to the arid plains of Mesopotamia, to a civilization that first brought writing, mathematics, and record-keeping to the world. Among the clay tablets that survive from this cradle of civilization, one stands apart, not for its narrative, not for its kings or wars, but for the precision and sophistication of the knowledge it encodes. This is the Plimpton 322 tablet, a relic of the Sumerians that continues to challenge our understanding of mathematics and ancient intellect. The tablet itself is modest in size, about the length of a modern smartphone, but its surface is densely inscribed with cuneiform signs arranged in neat, methodical columns and rows. The clay, now baked and hardened by time, bears marks of careful craftsmanship, each wedge-shaped symbol pressed with deliberate care. Scholars estimate it was created around 1800 BCE during the Old Babylonian period, although its roots may trace even further back into Sumerian traditions of accounting, calculation, and education. What makes Plimpton 322 extraordinary is the content it preserves. At first glance, it resembles a simple table, yet closer inspection reveals that it lists sets of numbers corresponding to right-angled triangles, the so-called Pythagorean triples, centuries before Pythagoras himself was born. The tablet appears to organize these triples in a systematic manner, suggesting not only computational ability, but a conceptual understanding of geometric relationships that seems remarkably advanced for its era. Each row is precise, each number deliberate, hinting at a sophistication in mathematics that surpasses mere practical accounting. Mainstream scholars generally interpret the tablet as an educational tool, a mathematical exercise for scribes in training. It may have been used to teach ratios, proportions, and the properties of right-angled triangles, preparing students for practical tasks in surveying, construction, or commerce. Indeed, Mesopotamian cultures required precise measurement for dividing land, constructing canals, and planning cities. In this context, Plimpton 322 is a testament to the analytical rigor and applied science of a civilization long before the Greek mathematicians formalized similar concepts. Yet, as with many ancient artifacts, certainty is elusive. The arrangement of the numbers on the tablet, carefully ordered in columns, descending in a pattern that modern scholars have tried to decode, suggests a purpose beyond simple calculation. Some researchers propose that it reflects a trigonometric system based on ratios rather than angles, a conceptual approach strikingly sophisticated for the Bronze Age. Others have noted that the selection of triples is not random. Certain numbers are included while others are omitted, implying criteria or principles that remain obscure. Why were these specific sets chosen? What logic guided their compilation? And what practical or theoretical purpose did such precision serve? Speculative interpretations push the mystery even further. Some scholars argue that the tablet represents a form of proto-trigonometry, a precursor to concepts that would not be formally developed until millennia later in Greek and Islamic mathematics. Could the Sumerians have possessed knowledge of geometric principles so advanced that it anticipates later discoveries? Others suggest that the tablet may have encoded more than mathematics alone. Astronomical calculations, architectural planning, or symbolic numerology might also be hidden within its rows. The lack of definitive context leaves each possibility open, inviting both wonder and skepticism. Even more provocative theories emerge when considering the cultural and intellectual climate of the time. The Sumerians, after all, were inventors of writing, codified law, and urban planning. They observed the heavens with careful attention, tracking planetary motion and eclipses. Could the tablet be a fragment of a broader scientific tradition, part of a system of knowledge that combined mathematics, cosmology, and measurement? And if so, how much of this knowledge has been lost to the centuries, buried in forgotten archives, destroyed by time, or simply awaiting rediscovery in the unexcavated layers of ancient Mesopotamian cities? There is also a philosophical dimension to Plimpton 322. The tablet forces us to confront assumptions about the origins of human knowledge. Advanced mathematics is often framed as a product of classical Greece or later civilizations. Yet here is evidence that Bronze Age societies were thinking abstractly, systematically, and conceptually. They were capable of constructing numerical frameworks with elegance and consistency, even without formalized proofs or modern notation. What other forms of knowledge, lost to history, might have existed in parallel? Concepts, calculations, and insights erased by time yet echoed in fragments like this tablet. The physicality of Plimpton 322 adds to its mystique. It is a humble clay object, yet its message transcends materiality. The grooves pressed into its surface connect us directly to minds that lived nearly 4,000 years ago, bridging a gulf of time with precision, logic, and creativity. Holding it, or even imagining it in one's hands, is to confront the continuity of human intellect, the same curiosity, reasoning, and drive to understand that we recognize in ourselves today. And so, as we examine the Plimpton 322 tablet, a series of questions lingers, quietly persistent. Were the Sumerians fully aware of the abstract principles their calculations imply, or was the tablet simply a practical tool whose deeper implications eluded even its creators? Was it part of a larger compendium of mathematical knowledge, now lost, or an isolated artifact of brilliant insight? Could it hint at scientific or theoretical traditions that predate recorded history in ways we have yet to comprehend? The tablet, modest in size but monumental in implication, invites reflection on the breadth of human understanding, the ingenuity of early civilizations, and the enduring mysteries of knowledge itself. It is both artifact and enigma, a window into the minds of a people whose accomplishments continue to surprise, challenge, and inspire. And as we trace the rows of numbers, ponder the hidden logic, and contemplate the mathematical sophistication of the Sumerians, we are left with an open question, one that persists as much today as it did nearly 4,000 years ago. How much of human knowledge lies buried, waiting to be rediscovered, and what truths about the ancient world remain just beyond our grasp? From the numerical elegance of the Sumerian Plimpton 322 tablet, where numbers trace a path through time and intellect, we now turn to another kind of map, one that charts not numbers, but the physical world itself. A relic of early cartography that has puzzled historians, geographers, and explorers alike, the Piri Reis Map offers a window into the knowledge and imagination of the early 16th century, while hinting at mysteries that may reach far deeper into human history. Unfolding this fragile, hand-drawn map is like stepping back into a world of exploration and discovery. The surviving fragment, preserved on a piece of gazelle skin parchment, measures roughly 90 by 60 centimeters, its edges tattered and worn with age. The inked coastline curves across the page with striking precision, tracing the contours of Western Europe, northwestern Africa, and, most astonishingly, the eastern shores of South America. Mountains, rivers, and islands are marked with a careful hand, while annotations in Ottoman Turkish provide names, notes, and observations about peoples and ports, offering a vivid glimpse into the world view of its creator. The map's provenance is fascinating. It was drawn in 1513 by Piri Reis, an Ottoman admiral and cartographer, known for compiling charts and navigational knowledge from the works of Portuguese, Spanish, and Arabic explorers. Reis himself notes in an inscription that he used approximately 20 earlier maps as sources, some of which he claimed dated back to the age of Alexander the Great. Yet while the map is a remarkable example of early modern navigation, it also contains anomalies that continue to spark intrigue and debate. Chief among these puzzles is the depiction of South America's coastline with an accuracy that seems almost anachronistic. Some researchers argue that the map reflects knowledge not yet formally documented in European exploration records. Even more striking, the southernmost portion of the fragment appears to show part of Antarctica, drawn in a way that aligns with the continent's coastline beneath its ice sheet, a detail unknown to any cartographer until centuries later. How could Piri Reis or his sources have known this? Was it derived from now lost ancient maps, speculative extrapolation, or some other unknown tradition of observation? Mainstream historians emphasize that the map is a product of cumulative knowledge, careful observation, compilation of existing charts, and deductive reasoning from known coastlines. European exploration was advancing rapidly, and sailors and cartographers shared information through trade, conquest, and correspondence. In this context, anomalies may be explained as imaginative reconstructions or errors in interpreting earlier maps. Yet the precision of certain coastlines, particularly those far removed from contemporary European experience, invites deeper curiosity. Speculative interpretations abound. Some suggest that Piri Reis had access to ancient, possibly pre-Columbian or even pre-modern maps, handed down from unknown civilizations or collected from lost archives. Others propose that the map encodes knowledge from seafaring cultures that ventured further than historical records acknowledge, mapping coastlines long before Columbus or Magellan. A few researchers even consider astronomical or geodetic principles embedded in the map, suggesting a surprisingly advanced understanding of latitude, longitude, and the Earth's curvature for its time. Each theory raises profound questions about the transmission of knowledge and the continuity of human exploration across epochs. The map also carries cultural and historical significance beyond its geographic content. It is a testament to the Ottoman Empire's engagement with global knowledge, its curiosity about distant lands, and its connections to multiple traditions of navigation, from Arabic and Islamic charts to European portolan maps. Piri Reis himself describes the painstaking process of compilation, collecting sketches, consulting sailors, and reconciling sometimes contradictory reports into a coherent visual representation. The map is thus both a practical tool for navigation and an artifact of intellectual ambition, bridging empirical observation and interpretive creativity. Yet, even the most careful analyses cannot fully resolve the mysteries. Why do certain islands appear that do not exist? Why are some coastlines remarkably accurate while others seem distorted? Could these inconsistencies reflect the limitations of available information, the artistic license of the cartographer, or perhaps glimpses of knowledge now lost to time? The questions linger, inviting curiosity and skepticism in equal measure. The Piri Reis Map is also a meditation on human perception and imagination. It shows us how explorers of the past navigated the unknown, combining first-hand observation with inherited knowledge and sometimes conjecture to make sense of the world. It reminds us that maps are not just tools, they are interpretations, narratives, and records of human understanding, frozen at a particular moment in time. The Piri Reis Map, in particular, occupies a liminal space, part practical chart, part historical document, part enigmatic artifact that continues to defy complete explanation. And so, as we examine the map, we are confronted with enduring questions. How much knowledge from the ancient or pre-modern world has been lost, only to surface in fragments like this? Could Piri Reis have truly accessed information beyond his contemporaries' reach? Or are we reading significance into what was simply a careful compilation? And what does it tell us about the boundaries of exploration, the limits of recorded history, and the ways humans have sought to understand the planet long before modern instruments or satellites? The map's surviving fragment invites us to trace coastlines with our fingers, to imagine the sailors and scholars who shaped it, and to wonder what stories lie hidden in the parchment and ink. In its detailed curves, its annotations, and its unexplained accuracies, we glimpse a dialogue between the known and the unknown, between observation and speculation, between history and mystery. And as we step back and consider the Piri Reis Map in its full context, one question lingers above all. What truths about our world, and about the knowledge of those who came before us, remain buried in maps, manuscripts, and artifacts waiting to be rediscovered? The map endures, fragile yet enduring, a testament to curiosity, exploration, and the enduring allure of the unexplained. Its lines invite us to follow, to question, and to imagine what secrets might still lie beyond the edges of human knowledge. From the meticulously drawn coastlines of the Piri Reis Map, where ink and parchment carry whispers of knowledge both observed and inherited, we now turn to a far more tangible enigma, one found not in libraries or archives, but deep beneath the earth. In the rolling plains of Nampa, Idaho, An unassuming clay artifact emerged in 1889, sparking questions that have lingered for more than a century. This is the story of the Nampa Figurine, a small object with a history far larger than its size suggests. Picture the scene of its discovery. Workers digging a well, plunging into layers of soil, sand, and clay, the rhythmic clink of tools echoing across the quiet fields. At a depth of approximately 320 feet, far deeper than conventional archaeological strata of known habitation, the workers unearthed a tiny humanoid-shaped figurine made of fired clay. Measuring just over 1.5 inches in height, its proportions are surprisingly precise. A distinct head, torso, arms, and legs, carefully modeled despite its diminutive size. The figure's smooth surface and detailed form reveal deliberate craftsmanship, hinting at a human hand guided by skill, intention, and cultural context. Radiocarbon dating of surrounding sediments initially suggested an age far older than expected for human artifacts in the region. Mainstream estimates placed the well's deposit at roughly 2 million years old, a chronology that predates known human presence in North America by orders of magnitude. This staggering implication challenged existing archaeological and anthropological paradigms. If the stratigraphy was accurate, how could a small, molded figurine, undeniably shaped by human hands, exist in a context so ancient? The artifact itself is simple yet extraordinary. Its head is slightly elongated, arms and legs subtly defined, with a rounded body that suggests both human form and stylized abstraction. Some researchers point to the firing of the clay as evidence of sophisticated craftsmanship, indicating knowledge of kilns or controlled heating, skills associated with far later civilizations. Could such an object truly predate the migration of anatomically modern humans into North America? Or does its discovery represent a misinterpretation of the geological context, a mixing of strata, or some other natural anomaly? Mainstream archaeology approaches the Nampa figurine with caution. Many experts suggest that the artifact may have been introduced into deeper sediments through natural processes, water percolation, soil shifts, or human activity over millennia. Indeed, the extraordinary depth at which it was found raises legitimate questions about stratigraphic integrity. Critics argue that without corroborating evidence, tools, habitation remains, or additional figurines from similar strata, the figurine cannot reliably be dated to such an early period. In this view, the artifact is fascinating but not revolutionary, an outlier in the broader archaeological record. Yet the figurine's peculiarities resist easy dismissal. Its form, firing, and human-like proportions suggest intentional creation, not the accidental shaping of sedimentary processes. Its survival through such extreme depth and age, regardless of exact chronology, invites reflection on human creativity, migration, and the development of symbolic expression. Even if later intrusion occurred, the figurine still represents a sophisticated understanding of form and medium, a miniature testament to an artisan's hand whose identity and culture remain unknown. Speculative interpretations have arisen to fill the gaps left by conventional explanation. Some propose that the figurine is evidence of a previously unknown human presence in North America far earlier than established timelines suggest, a challenge to accepted theories of migration and settlement. Others suggest that it could represent a symbolic object, a talisman, or a ritual figure, perhaps used in ceremonies, storytelling, or domestic devotion. Its small size makes it portable, intimate, and potentially meaningful in ways larger monuments cannot convey. More fringe theories extend the mystery further. Could it be a remnant of an unknown civilization, one that flourished and vanished without leaving a trace in the archaeological record? Or might it reflect a type of human or pre-human ingenuity that challenges our assumptions about cognitive evolution and technological capability? While such ideas remain speculative, They underscore the persistent fascination the Nampa figurine inspires. It is an artifact that stands at the intersection of certainty and wonder, fact and imagination. The context of its discovery adds another layer of intrigue. Nampa, Idaho, was not an area traditionally associated with early human settlement. The well itself, drilled for water, was far removed from known sites of habitation, making the figurine's presence even more perplexing. Could it have been transported by water, carried by glacial movements, or deposited through other natural processes? Or does its depth hint at a story of human activity lost to the eons, a history buried beneath the soil and obscured by time? The Nampa figurine reminds us that human history is not always linear. It challenges the neat timelines we construct in textbooks, suggesting instead a world where ingenuity, creativity, and symbolism might arise under circumstances, and at times we scarcely imagine. Its very existence provokes reflection on what has been preserved, what has been lost, and what mysteries might still lie buried, waiting to be revealed in the sediment of forgotten places. And so, as we examine this tiny, fired figure, one question endures. Who crafted it, and for what purpose? Was it a child's toy, a ritual object, or a token of symbolic meaning far removed from our own understanding? Does it hint at a chapter of human history that science has yet to uncover, or is it a puzzle shaped by circumstance, chance, and geological processes beyond our control? The figurine's silent gaze challenges us to consider the limits of knowledge, the depth of time, and the enduring allure of the unexplained. The Nampa figurine, small yet monumental in implication, invites us to pause, reflect, and imagine. It is a reminder that even the tiniest objects can hold immense significance, that human creativity may emerge in unexpected places, and that the past still holds secrets capable of reshaping our understanding. Buried in clay and time, it waits quietly for our curiosity, daring us to look deeper, think critically, and wonder what other enigmas lie hidden beneath the surface of our world.